and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave, and this video is aimed more towards people who haven't been playing guitar for quite so long, so like beginner to intermediate level. So I want to cover off, it's a really fundamental thing that you need to know. It's possibly the most important chord, actually no, it's the most important chord that you'll ever learn. So if you've been playing guitar for any length of time, you'll have come across what we call open position chords, things like this. Now they're useful, and certainly they've got a place in your chord vocabulary. Once you've learned them, you will continue to play them right the way through your guitar playing career. But if you've got an electric guitar, probably what you sort of aspiring to play is something more like this. It's putting the amp onto a nice dirty sound and getting a chord that sounds like this. That's the sound of the power chord. It's a really simple chord to play actually. There's only two notes in it. There's actually three, but one of the notes repeats itself. And it's sort of the cornerstone of all rock, hard rock, heavy metal music. It gets used in a lot of different places. It's really simple, really effective, and so one of those chords you really do need to know. In fact, I remember going to a concert a good few years ago now, and there were two guitar players. There was a rhythm player and a lead player, and the rhythm player played nothing but rhythm. And throughout the entire concert he only played one chord shape, and that was the power chord. Because this is what I'm going to show you now is a movable shape. So once you've learned the shape for one particular chord, so like an A power chord, you can move it around to a G, to play a G power chord, and so on. So it's a movable shape. Okay, so let's start off with, say, an A power chord. So we're going to play the lowest note, the root note of the chord is the A. So we're going to go to the 5th fret on the bottom E string. Play that A. Then we're going to take the ring finger, third finger, and put it down 2 frets high at the 7th fret on the 5th string. So the A string at the 7th fret gives us an E. And then little finger down also at the 7th fret on the 4th string, on the D string, so that also gives us an A. D string at the 7th fret is an A. So we've got an A down here on the bottom string. We've got an A an octave higher on the 4th string, and in between E. So the formula of the power chord basically is a 1st degree and a 5th degree. If you don't understand scale theory, don't worry about that. It's basically if you take a scale, and what we're doing is we're taking the 1st degree and the 5th degree, put those together, A power chord. And as I said, this is a movable shape. So if we're playing there the shape at the 5th fret, because A on the bottom E string at the 5th fret is the root of our chord. If we take the whole shape down a couple of frets, that lowest note now is at the 3rd fret, it's a G. So we've got a G, D, a G. That's a G power chord. Move the whole shape down again to an F. So we've got an F, a C, and an F. Same basic sound, but that's the F power chord. So we've got A, G, F, and so on. You can move that shape anywhere on the neck within reason. I say within reason because of the way the guitar's tuned. As you go onto the higher strings, you need to change the shape slightly. The way that the shape works is on where the root note's on the bottom E string, you can use the shape I've just shown you. Where the root note is on the 5th string, you can use the same shape that I've just shown you. Where the root note is on the 4th string, what you need to do is raise the note, the highest note of the chord by 1 fret, just because of the way the guitar's tuned. So if we're playing, say, an E power chord here, we've got an E, we've got a B. On the B string, on the 2nd string, we also want an E. So to do that, we need to bring the little finger up to the 5th fret. Gives us the same chord. So it's a different shape, but it's the same chord. Like I say, it's just the way it's, the way the guitar's tuned. And similarly, if we take the root note onto the 3rd string, then we need to lift both notes from the shape by 1 fret, so we end up with a shape that looks like this. But those shapes are movable, so on any time that the root note is on the 3rd string, we can use that shape. Any time that the root note is on the 4th string, we can use this shape. Any time the root note's on the 5th string, we can use this shape. And same shape anytime the root note's on the bottom E string. So like I said, really useful shape. So spend a bit of time getting comfortable with that, learning how to form the chord shape up on the neck, and getting comfortable with that and being able to move it around without too much effort. And then what you can do is you can start to exploit this. And what you can do is take chord progressions that you already know and just distill those down to the root note, and then use the root notes of those chords as the root of a power chord. So let's consider, I'm going to go on the clean channel quickly. The chord progression, say something goes A minor, C major, D minor, E minor. Nice, simple, open chord progression. But if we look at the chords there, we've got A, C, D and E root notes in the chords. We can use those as the root of power chords. Go onto the dirty channel, get something a bit rockier sounding, and play A, C, D and E power chords. Yeah, world of difference there in terms of sound. You get much harder sound by using the power chord. And as you'll notice, the 3 chords there, the C, D, E, I'm using exactly the same shape. I'm just moving it up from a C root note to a D root note to an E root note, because it's a movable chord shape. So like I said, you only need to learn the one shape, but you've got a whole bunch of chords that you can play, just depending on what root note you're using. Okay, so that's the basic power chord. You can learn that and it'll give you a whole load of use. However, I want to show you a couple of other things you can consider in terms of chord shapes and whatnot. Think about what we're going to do with open notes. So when we're starting off, I said you could take an A power chord at the 5th fret, G power chord at the 3rd fret, F power chord at the 1st. What happens if I want to go down and play an E power chord? Well, I can't fret that, but I can play the open E string, and I can just fret at the 2nd fret, give me a B and an E, and that gives me an open power chord shape. And I find that more comfortable just to use my index finger for bar it across the two fret notes, because anywhere I'm playing an open chord shape, the next chord I play is likely going to be up the neck. So it's easier to say to go from an E to a F sharp like that than it is to go from playing an E like that, as opposed to the entirely fretted shape to something like this. Yeah, just about economy of movement. And you can do that on bottom 3 strings 5, 4 and 3. But once you get to the higher strings, you need to be aware of the change in the way the guitar's tuned, and on the 4th, 3rd and 2nd strings you get a shape that looks like that, and on the top 3 strings you get a shape that looks like that. Okay, so that's the basic power chord shape. Fretted, completely movable, and also an open position shapes. Something you can think about doing as well is extending the shape down over. So let's say we're playing a C power chord. So we're playing C at the 3rd fret on the 5th string, G at the 5th fret on the 4th string, on the D string, and another C at the 5th fret on the 3rd string. Now, if you look at the layout of the neck, and if you know your fingerboard layout, you know that the 3rd fret on the bottom E string is a G. Now there's a G in this chord already here at the 5th fret on the 4th string. What we can do is, instead of just playing the C note, the root note with our first finger, bar the first finger across the bottom 2 strings, so we get a G, C, G and C. That gives you a much fatter sounding chord because you've got more going on in the bass note. And technically this is what we call a second inversion chord, because the lowest note of the chord isn't the root, it's actually the 5th degree, but don't worry about the music theory. It's just a case of knowing that you're using the same notes that you've got in the chord. We're not adding any new notes, we're just playing notes from different octaves in different positions within the chord. So playing that chord shape there really thickens things up. And again, this is a shape you can move around. So if the root note is on the 5th string, you've got a shape that looks like that. If the root note is on the 4th string, you've got a shape that looks like this. And if the root is on the 3rd string, you've got a shape that looks like this. So don't just constrain yourself to playing the simple 3-note chord. Think about introducing the extra 5th note down there. And you can take this to an extreme. One of my favourite chords, I think this was a Paul Gilbert, I learned this one from, is like the ultimate A power chord. You've got an E on the bottom E string, you've got an open A string, E, you've got an A, you've got an E, and you've got an A. And while we're on the idea of having the 5th degree as the lowest note of the chord, let's think about just a 2-note chord, where instead of playing the 1st degree and the 5th degree, we're actually playing the 5th degree as the lowest note, and then the root degree, the highest note, up from that. So think about, say, let's think about a D power chord. So a D power chord, typically we'll play, say, like a D and an A and another D. So think about a D power chord here. We've got the D and the A are open strings, so the open 5th and 4th strings. Then what I can do is bring my finger down at the 2nd fret on the 4th and 3rd strings, and also play that bottom note of the chord, the A. So I'm going from a D to an A. Hammer on with my first finger. And that's a really useful transition. It's something I use quite a lot. Get a nice snappy sort of transition between the chords. Now you'll probably find that when you start playing power chords, you're generally playing around the lower string, so the root note on the 5th string or the 6th string, just because it works better as a rhythm part where you've got a nice thick, it's like bassy sort of chord to lay a melody over the top of. And that's fine, so you'd be getting chord progressions. That sort of thing. But don't underestimate the value of playing power chords on some of the higher strings, where you get a chord that really cuts through. So just taking something, I'm not going to teach you it verbatim, I'll just kind of quickly run through the chords I'm using and give you a bit of inspiration. But playing an open position A chord, then looking at playing say an E, F, G, possibly even an E up, an A up here, at the with the root at the 7th fret on the 4th string, because that obviously cuts through a lot more than the open A chord. But you get progressions that sound like this. combine that with the idea I mentioned before about adding the extra fifth degree on the lower string, you kind of get the best of both worlds. You've got a nice thick bassy sort of chord, but you've also got the notes on the higher strings that cut through. You get the idea, so it's something for you to experiment with. Now I said at the start it's a fairly simple chord, there's only one shape. As we've gone through it there, I kind of showed there's a few different little variations on that. But by introducing those variations it becomes a really, really powerful tool. There's lots of things you can do just with that simple power chord. But it's got a really good sound, like so you can use it if you're playing rock, heavy metal, anything like that. It's the foundation of everything that you do. So it's a really useful chord to play, and sort of the more ways you know how to exploit it, the better, because it gives you a richer sort of vocabulary of things to work with. We're talking a lot there about what's happening with the fretting hand. I want to talk a little bit now about what we're doing with the picking hand. Because if you're playing power chord progressions, you're going to be like I am here on the dirty channel of the amp. Nice thick distorted sound. Now the issue you're going to have is when you're playing power chords, particularly sort of on the lower notes, the chord kind of just, you know, it rings out. There's a lot of distortion there, and if you go from one chord to another and they're just ringing out, it's very easy for the chord progression to get a bit like a bit muddy, a bit mushy. Yeah, the chords aren't necessarily that distinct. What you can do with your picking hand is just rest the side of the palm just on the bridge at the saddles. Not enough to completely kill the note dead, but enough to just stop it ringing out completely. So instead of having the full sounding chord, you have something. So it's still, you can still hear the notes, but they're not ringing out and running into each other. So be careful with this. If you've got a tremolo on your guitar, it's very easy to put pressure on and start to push the tremolo down and the strings go sharp. You just want a very light pressure on the strings to stop them ringing out. So when you're playing the chord progression, you can alternate between playing the full chord ringing out and the deadened sound with the heel of your hand. So play the full chord and then deadened notes to give it some sort of percussive feel to it. Yeah, so that's something else to include in your practice routine. You come up with chord progressions, play them through, and come up with different rhythm patterns and exploit that palm muting technique just to give you a more percussive feel to what you're playing. Okay, so there's loads and loads to experiment with here, and like I say, it's probably the most important chord that you'll learn, particularly if you're playing rock music. So spend a lot of time getting to grips with this, finding ways to play it and play this type of chord and chord progressions. Think about your rhythm playing, what you're doing with the palm of your hand to give you a nice percussive feel to your rhythm playing. You know, and never neglect the rhythm aspect of your guitar playing. You know, even if you aspire to be a lead guitar player, if you're playing in a band, yes, you get your guitar solos in every song where you get your chance to shine, your chance to show off. But so much of what you're going to be playing is actually rhythm playing. You know, behind every verse, every chorus, you're going to be playing the rhythm line. And power chords are an incredibly useful tool. So don't neglect your rhythm playing. You spend some time, get to grips with the power chord shape, and think about what you're doing with your picking hand, and build yourself up as a rhythm guitar player as well as a lead guitar player. It's important that you're well rounded, not just a soloist. Okay, I hope you found that useful. If you did, please click like, please subscribe down there. If you've got a question about guitar, music theory, guitar gear, anything like that, a suggestion for a future video, then if you go here, send your question in. I'll try and get around to answering it in a future video. That form's a bit more reliable than sending me questions through the YouTube comments section, because YouTube's not very good at letting me know when people comment on videos. It's nice to see comments, but just be aware YouTube doesn't always let me know when people comment, so often questions go unanswered down there in the comments section. Okay, that's all for now. There's plenty for you to be practicing with in the meantime, and I'll see you in another video sometime soon. Bye for now.